FORA.tv. Idea Immersion. Visit us at www.fora.tv.
Can you relate the long tail to the current trend on the supply side where consumers are becoming creators?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, this is, you know, I mean, again, the YouTube phenomenon, MySpace, Wikipedia, the blogosphere. This is what when I talk about the democratization of production, the democratization of distribution, you know, we're talking about blogs. We're talking about uploading, you know, videos of yourself lip syncing. They're the most popular ones. You know, I bang on a lot about this sort of elitism that we've had that professionals produce. Yes, professionals produce, and the reason professionals produce is because only they had the keys to the machine, the notion that you needed a printing press to be a publisher. Every blogger right now has a printing press. Everybody who has a broadband connection has access to a video distribution network that rivals the biggest studios in terms of its reach. So I think that that you're seeing the rise of kind of mass amateurism. The rise. We've had this assumption that talent is sort of scarce, and that you need this sort of big filtering process to identify the good people and let them into the machine. It turns out that talent is very widely distributed, and far more widely distributed than our distribution institutions. And something like YouTube, something like Wikipedia, something like the blogosphere suddenly allows talent to identify itself, and then all those network effects of just sort of, we're very, very good at spotting stuff and bringing it to the attention of others through links, through Google, and everything else. We're now starting to find out just how rich our culture is in terms of talent, and in variety as well. You're seeing stuff that isn't just as good as the stuff that was commercially produced, but never would have been produced, just kind of coming from left field.
Yeah, it's a very interesting moment. Thinking of television for a second, too. Television news basically doesn't exist today because what we're seeing, I mean, there are reporters maybe in San Francisco covering San Francisco stories, or at least holding a camera up in front of a San Francisco story. But
yes.
The international news, which used to have, I mean, I'm going to make a slightly retro point here, but in the era of 20 years ago, there was a notion of a professional journalist. I'm not saying let's race back to that era. What I'm saying is that notion is utterly gone. And what we are seeing as so-called professional journalism is really freelance material shot in Baghdad, shipped to New York, somebody voiceovers it, and that's supposed to be live news.
Yeah.
And we're covering Israel out of London, we're covering Nairobi out of Tokyo. We're kidding ourselves. So in a way, I think the cure is not to go backwards, but to go forwards, and to label that stuff and get more of that material and kind of do away with this pseudo-professional news, which it really isn't.
Yeah.
I mean, if we're going to have citizen journalism, then let's have it.
I mean, I guess I feel very conflicted about this. I mean, with one hat, I'm a Condé Nast editor. The very sort of embodiment of the old style of sort of elite, premier, big production process, journalism. On the other side, I'm a blogger. My peers in the blogosphere are any one of you. They're engineers, they're students, they're retired people. I don't care. We've decredentialized journalism. The people I respect the most are the people who have something to say, who have sort of, who have unique information, unique perspective, unique articulation, and I don't care what their affiliation is. Whereas the journalistic model was you needed the press card. You needed to have that association to be respected.
Well, at the risk of going down the wrong path, my concern, simultaneous and on the same topic, is I'm concerned that what we now call journalism, and I'm thinking of television maybe more, is really just opinion mongering. So Fox gets a bunch of guys up to talk about the news, none of whom are eyewitnesses to anything.
Yeah.
And then another network gets up another bunch, McNeil Lehrer gets a conservative to argue with an arch-conservative over some point. And neither one of these people is a principal it's not an actual interview. It's a tertiary news event. And, great. But to me, these are just, bloggers that get airtime.
Yeah.
There is such a thing as an eyewitness reporter. There is such a thing as getting the facts straight. That's not the same thing as saying objectivity rules and opinion is worth nothing. But there is some difference between, hey, I was there, this is what I saw, and, oh yes, I'm an expert on that subject. Let me tell you what the correct viewpoint is to have.
I think you're exactly right, but I think here's the good news. I think the marketplace is going to sort this out. Once upon a time, if there were only so many channels, there was a kind of a social responsibility for those channels to be good, to be responsible. Now when there's an infinite number of channels, if they suck, they're going to be replaced by somebody who's doing it better.
Yeah, well, I bring it on. And that is a little bit like this question, because this is kind of you got to go one way or the other question. Does the fractionalization of channels in all media types, does it portend a better, higher quality of social evolution due to more experimentation, or a lower quality due to the lack of cohesion and cooperation? And
it's a great question. This is the whole kind of, is a balkanized culture a good culture? I have a chapter on this in the book. Unsurprisingly, I think that it's a net positive. What I think is that we're going from an era where we've been sort of, because of the incredible, powerful broadcast technology, which broadcast is a great way to sort of reach a lot of people with a small amount of stuff. I think that our linkages, to the extent we've been watching the same things at the same time, listening to the same things at the same time, we have sort of very, very wide but shallow links with each other. The fact that we both watched I Love Lucy is not really a very strong, connective tissue between us. Now those weak links are breaking. Instead, what we're doing is we're having more tribal culture, where what I do is I find my passions and I can pursue them to the ends of the world, and I can find people who share my passions. And so now I have a smaller number of tighter connections. So I think we've gone from, you're right, on some level, we as a nation are not one sort of, lockstep culture. But I think what we've discovered is that within our country has been a sort of a depth and a variety that was suppressed by the economics and physics of broadcast, and we're discovering that we do have these passions that we share with people who aren't around us, but we can find them elsewhere. What this does to politics, what this does to our sense of being an American, what this does to our sense of being part of our time, we don't know yet. I think it's going to evolve, but I'm optimistic that tighter but fewer connections are probably going to be a net positive.